Those are tax dollars.
It's binding on the state till Congress acts and then courts will rule.
Do you have an extra pen? I don't like to need it.
I'm not sure you want to use it.
The committee will come to order. Will commissioners, staff, and guests please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Limited public comment at this time. Any member of the public wishing to address the committee may do so for up to 3 minutes.
I'm Frank Failla, wearing the hat of the Solid Waste Oversight Committee this morning. Two quick things I'd like to share with you. One is we have been short members of our Solid Waste Oversight Committee, so I applaud you for having the interviews with a couple of very fine candidates this morning. So that will help us a lot on the Solid Waste Committee when we get our full slate. And then I handed out 2 documents to each of you earlier for your consideration. One is in the lame duck session, the $15 million boost for recycling. And those are grants that are available to people within Berry County. And we've got Sarah Archer helping us with that. And we're wrestling with how we can take advantage of that. We had a very successful recycling kind of our summit meeting on the 28th, this very last Thursday. 2 of you attended, and thank you very much for that. Conducted by Sarah Archer and was, I thought, very appropriate. The conclusion of that was, and I handed to you as well, a little summary, that there's a resolution that we're asking all the local units of government within Berry County that we can get to agree to that resolution. It's one that doesn't cost any money and that you can walk away from at any time. And we would like you folks to agree to that resolution as well. That lays out a plan where we're going to in the month of May try to put together a plan for how we can best move forward, agree to a vision, and agree to logistically how this whole thing fits together. So I just share that with you to look over if you like, and we'd very much appreciate your support and agreeing to that resolution. Take any questions if you have any, and other than that, I'll move on.
Thanks, Frank.
Thank you very much.
Are there any other public comments?
Good morning. For the record, my name is Shirley Barnum. I live on Coates Grove Road in Hastings. I've lived in Berry County for 65 years. For 27 years, I worked in the accounting field, and I understand numbers. On behalf of Berry County taxpayers, I'm here to ask you to support our effort to bring the Berry County Health Department home to Berry County. We know this will save taxpayers in the range of $300,000 to $400,000 a year in taxes. We need to have oversight on our health department spending, which we do not seem to have at this time. Do you or any of the members of the public have any questions for me? I'd be happy to answer. Thank you, and I'm sure you're going to see me many more times in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment? Seeing none, here to present our next item is Jim Dull. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners adoption of Resolution 1906, providing full faith and credit for irrevocable line of credit for Little Thornapple River Intercounty Drain.
So moved.
Second.
That motion was made by Gibson, supported by Connor. Discussion. Mr. Dull, the floor is yours.
Let's see if this thing will work. Jim Dull, Berry County Drain Commission. With me is Stacy Hissong, the legal representation for Little Thornapple Intercounty Drain District, and my deputy, Tammy Bercia. I'll give you a real quick background of what we're doing here. When I took over in 17, we were trying to get an understanding with the DEQ of what we needed to do to get the Little Thornapple basically squared away and behind us. At that point, there had been a kind of a rough draft done by Aaron Snell and Mike Nurse of Streamside of what could be done to remediate any issues that happened on that drain. As Stacy worked through with DEQ and Attorney General's office to come to some kind of a paper resolution, we started doing remediation work in stream, stuff like that. We've got quite a bit of that done. When the ACO got finished up, one of the requirements that they wanted to make sure that we finished everything was a $600,000 bond. We attempted to get that, but without assets and without work history, performance bonds don't happen. So we contacted Rob Raines at Hastings City Bank. Stacy found out the DEQ agreed that if we got an irrevocable letter of credit instead, that would suffice. So what we did was we got a hold of Rob. He went to the bankers' banks, and they said the only way we can get it written is if we have full faith and credit from all 3 counties pledging, I don't know what, I guess, assets, that we will get our job done. We've got that price down. Hastings City Bank finally came through. Rob Raines is going to handle all the paperwork, and he said he'll do the whole thing for $7,500 for a $600,000 irrevocable letter of trust. So I'm going to let Stacy touch base on anything else real quick. Whatever I missed.
Yep. Jim has been a pleasure to work with in terms of being a bulldog. He has been a pleasure to work with in terms of doing everything possible and being very aggressive
He's delightful,
to get this done. Yes. So we are pleased to be able to say that an administrative consent order was signed without fines. We have a project already planned and basically under contract for construction. We hope to have everything finished by year's end. Part of the ACO, Administrative Consent Order ACO, that we signed with the DEQ and the Attorney General's office says that we have to replace certain wetlands that they alleged were damaged. Some of those we are replacing through this project and mostly through Jim's work. And a small portion of that where we don't have the room to do it within our easements or we don't have property owner agreements, we have to buy wetland mitigation credits. The range for wetland mitigation credit bank costs is around $100,000 an acre credit. But there is a new program called the Michigan Municipal Wetland Alliance that will sell it just to local governmental entities for $30,000 a credit. They are building one in the watershed that meets this criteria, but it's not going to be finished until this summer. The DEQ agreed to let us put basically an option on some of those credits so we could get the reduced price. But part of that is those credits won't be actually available to count towards this until a year after it's finished construction. So a year from next summer, as the year list, we can actually get credit for the credits. So we have to have an irrevocable letter of credit in place, one, in case the wetlands that Jim built and that the contractor is going to build don't turn out right, or that these credits that are being built right now, the bank is being built right now, fall through. They're saying that we can't have, it's going to cost significantly less than $600,000 to build the wetlands that we're doing and buy the credit, but the DEQ is taking the most expensive price possible for the replacement of those and making us get the line of credit for that amount. That's why the amount is so high. The likelihood that that everything's going to go wrong is very low. The bank is under construction. The likelihood that anything is going to happen with this irrevocable line of credit is minuscule, but as an attorney, you can never guarantee, because the minute I do that, that's why they want a letter of credit. So we're asking each county to pledge their percentage based on the percentage each county holds in the apportionments of the cost of the project. In Berry County's case, that's 63.5%. So $381,000 of the $600,000 we're asking Berry County to pledge. So that pledge would go into effect if every horrible of horribles takes place. Every wetland we've built goes bad, the bank goes bad, and we have to pay at the most expensive price. The likelihood of that is very small, but that's why they have the letter of credit. Rob Raines, I also want to say, went out of his way to make this possible for us, and the bank that he represents. And so we are very much appreciative of the efforts of I don't think it's Hastings City Bank anymore, Highland.
High Point Community Bank.
HCB, very appreciative of their efforts to allow this to happen in an affordable manner. And I would be pleased to answer any questions you may have.
Does 1 acre equal 1 credit? Is that what you're saying?
So for an acre credit, so basically we will buy 1 acre credit. 1 acre credit is 1 acre. When we're dealing with the ACO, for every acre of impact, you have to buy 4 times that amount or replace it by 4 times that amount. That's actually pretty good. I mean, it could be multitudes more than that.
So is that 24 acres then?
No, so we're dealing with
Our percentage?
like a couple, 1.4 acres is what we're really dealing with.
How much is the mitigation? How many acres then?
6 acres. We would have to buy 6 acres of credits if we hadn't done anything, if we hadn't got the in-stream already done and all that stuff.
But if you're doing your own,
Right.
how many acres are you doing?
I think we are actually, if everything goes well, we'll have to purchase 0.4 acres.
Okay.
We put an option on 1 acre just in case, but we're looking at 0.4 acres as the ultimate purchase.
Okay.
And the reason it's 4 times, in the state law, if Myers comes in and wants to destroy 1 acre, they have to replace it with 2. If it's after the fact and you didn't get a permit to do it, then it's 4 times as much. So
Depending on the type of acreage, it actually could go up depending on if it's a certain type of wetland, then the percentage is higher. It could be up to 8 times, 10 times. It just depends.
This is all assessed then to the homeowners?
in the district, yep.
Yes.
Okay. And
We
they-
anticipate hearings for the day of review to happen later this spring in May.
Okay.
That's something else we're doing this summer, because there was a lot of people in that district that weren't getting a bill. And so last year we decided we're going to do the whole drain district on that. The pluses to it, we found 600 acres in Ionia that wasn't paying on this drain. And we ended up actually reducing Berry County's percentage from, I think it was 85% down to 63%. But now everybody that's in the drain district will get a bill. And I mean, it's just one of them things that if a drain district ain't redone ever X number of years, there's going to be people missed.
Any other questions for Jim?
When this job was voted on by the drain board, everybody, Ionia, Kent, and Berry, all had the same vote, right? 33 1/3% vote.
Well, yeah.
And in the minutes, it said in there, I believe, that it's all our faults. Why is our people in Berry County taking such a hit?
So the percent for who pays what is not based on whose fault it is. It's based on the percentage of acreage in the district. And so all 3 counties are paying for the costs incurred by the drainage district based on the acreage in each respective county.
And like I mentioned, when the district was done many years ago, 1926, was that the last time?
Before that, probably.
Last time the district was done, they had Berry County at 85%. But with this new districting, that'll change our percentage to 65%, which will be, I mean, it reflects better the number of acreages that we have in the district.
And whether you get it fixed to the DEQ satisfaction is strictly up to the DEQ, right?
So there's an agreement that states that there's a plan in place. If we meet what we say we did in the plan, yes, they have to approve it. But I don't see where we're going to have any problem with that. Everything that Jim and the contractor has constructed so far has been approved.
So basically, what we're doing is just having some additional insurance to approve a plan, to go forward with the plan that's been worked out already.
Right, so to be very honest, this was a requirement of the administrative consent agreement. We did not anticipate that the full faith and credit of the counties would be necessary to get it, but this is an unusual project, so unusual measures are required. If this board was to say, no, you won't pledge the full faith, then it would be unlikely that Hastings would not be able to give us the irrevocable line of credit. We'd be in violation of the ACO, and we'd be fined daily. I think it's $5,000 a day, something to that nature. So we're already a little bit behind. Because of the problems we had getting the irrevocable letter of credit, we asked for an extension and was granted until April 15th to do so.
Thank you.
Vivian?
Did you say something about a bond and the cost of the bond was $6,500?
75, I think he said.
No, the irrevocable letter of credit.
Right. We were unable to obtain a surety bond, but they allowed us to get an irrevocable letter of credit instead, and Hastings is offering that to us at $7,500 for 1 year. I anticipate, or 2 year.
Yeah,
Yep.
Rob wrote it. He said he'll write it for 2 years. Normally they do 1 year, but he said we'll just do it 2 years. We know, I mean, they've worked with us a lot of times over the years, and Rob's willing to help us out on that.
Does the cost of that letter go back on the drain?
Yes.
It does.
Wondered.
Yep.
Make sure that I understood that right. Okay.
Can you tell me how much has went back on the drain already, the taxpayers on that drain?
A slug. How
much is that?
Last count, we had, I believe, assessed $470,000 on a $140,000 project. And we, at that time, Aaron figured we were about $200,000 to finish everything that we had to do to hit.
That was construction only, not
Yeah,
the rest of
right.
everything else.
Yeah.
So there was no assessment this last year,
Correct.
correct? So, yes. The assessment will be for more than 200,000. We're in the midst of trying to calculate the final number.
Any other questions? There now being no further discussion, the question before the committee is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners adoption of Resolution 19-6, providing full faith and credit for irrevocable line of credit for the Little Thornapple River Intercounty Drain. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The item is approved.
Thank you.
Just moving it on, or is this approve it?
This moves it on.
Next week.
Good.
Next item is interview of Nancy Kinney. Good morning.
Morning.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Why don't you take a few minutes to introduce yourself and let us know why you're interested in the board, and we'll take it after that.
My name is Nancy Kinney, born and raised in Hastings, second daughter of John and Dorothy Barnett, last graduating class out of the old high school, 1970. Run Michael Kinney Plumbing business here in Berry County for the last 25 years. Before that, we were in other states. I do all the bookwork, paperwork, phone calls, collecting of money, paying bills, all the stuff that's involved in running your own business. My husband is Michael Kinney. I'm working on all sorts of projects at home between my dad's estate, learning how to be a personal representative for his estate, selling some property for the estate. I look after all the paperwork for that. And as far as why I'm interested in the advisory board is I just need something extra to do. I don't have enough to do. So I'm interested in finding out what would be my responsibilities, and I'm just willing to give it a try.
Okay. Why don't we start with Commissioner Jackson, since that's his committee?
Thank you. Thank you, Nancy.
You came to my house and knocked on my door and asked for my vote, and I gave it to you.
Well, thank you.
There you go. We chatted.
I saw the address of Heath Road, and I said, I have been down Heath Road a lot this summer.
We came
so,
to my
you know.
front door and we chatted.
And your dog didn't bite me that time?
No,
so,
that's
okay.
right.
That's good. That's good. Well, thanks for applying. We
Okay.
appreciate that, and especially people who have some time and energy to put into the shelter. It looks like you're already working with the Humane Society and a little bit with the animal shelter already.
I do that second grade education with the Humane Society, where you go into the school classrooms and teach kids about caring for animals, and it's basically about getting them fixed, but you got to kind of gently approach that subject.
Yeah, exactly.
So
okay.
I do
and
that
you've been-
with Kay Doyle, and I do that when I'm asked. And as far as the animal shelter, I do some volunteer work there.
Okay, so you're connected with the animal shelter already. You know the other volunteers and some people down in there.
And, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, well, no, that's important. The Animal Shelter Advisory Board kind of has been through a little bit of an interesting past. We're at a very good point right now with Ken Kirsch leading the team down there, and we're kind of focusing on how we can help them to raise funds and be a little more involved, get some more presence in the community. How do you? I know you had time. You said you had time. How do you feel that would? That you could help us as far as either in fundraising or creating awareness for the shelter here locally?
Well, whatever would be required, I get out there and, fundraise for different causes. And, Ken had a good article in the Reminder about himself, and I think that raised a lot of awareness when that article came out. It was a good thing for him. I could handle whatever would be thrown at me.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate that. Thank you, Nancy. I don't have any other questions.
Thanks. Dan?
No questions. I just want to thank you for volunteering and to put yourself out on helping us that way. Mm-hmm. Have you been to board meetings at all?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Okay. Okay. Well, no, I don't have any more questions. Thanks.
Commissioner Connor?
I just had the one question where it cited if you have any conflicts of interest, and it says just my 2 jobs mentioned on the front. Did you mean as far as time?
Time, yeah.
But not a conflict of interest?
No,
Okay.
not a conflict of interest, no.
Right, I just wanted a little
Yeah.
clarification, because that's,
No,
with
it'd
all
be
you
time.
do, that's what
Yeah.
it sounded like.
Yeah, time, yeah.
Okay.
But,
Commissioner Geiger?
Thank you for volunteering.
okay, you're welcome.
Thank you for your application. I just have one question. I apologize to the committee. I'm going to be asking this to everybody, but we have a new board training series for new board members. If we were to appoint you, would you be willing to go to a workshop training session?
Where is it located?
We hold it here on the county campus a couple of times a year. So
I could handle that.
great. Thank you.
Commissioner Smelker?
I have no questions. Thank you for applying.
Commissioner Geiger?
I have no questions. Thanks for applying.
I have a question. Do you have any eggs? No? Okay. Okay. Okay.
Too cold to lay eggs. So I don't have any questions for you this morning. Thank you for applying.
All right, you're welcome.
The Animal Shelter Advisory Board is a board near and dear to my heart. So we have other interviews that we're going to be doing later in the morning, and then we will make a recommendation to the board after we get everybody interviewed. So
Okay.
thank you.
I
I understand you have
yeah.
other
Yeah, I had to-
obligations this morning.
Today,
so
yeah. Driving to Ann Arbor in this weather, so.
thank you for being here.
Okay.
Safe.
Thanks. Yep.
Alrighty. Here to present our next item is Under Sheriff Matt Hauschley. Good morning. The question, at this time, the chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval to purchase replacement vests and panels for a total cost of $6,935, with funds to be paid from the Diverted Felons Fund.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Jackson, seconded by Smelker. Undersheriff, the floor is yours.
Thank you for listening to me and entertaining this consideration today. We're in the process of sort of a second phase of replacing some of our vests that are used by our staff. And in this case, almost all of the vests that are, the money that's requested is for the corrections staff. They do have many responsibilities that take them outside of the facility, transports, hospital runs, different responsibilities that involve taking inmates out on the road and to their various needs and required attendance at court. So they also have vests. If you want to call it, the nice thing about the corrections vests is that vests are basically made of carriers and panels that are inserted into the carrier, the cloth carrier. Because they get less use than the ones that are currently used by our uniformed services staff, we can actually reuse the carriers and have panels cut for them to keep costs down to the tune of about $400 per vest. So our total request is for 2 new vests, one for a new employee and one for another employee whose vest is expiring, plus 10 sets of the panels, totaling $6,935. I actually did not go out and get other quotes from other companies for this because the vest panels were from one particular company in this case. I can tell you, though, that from my research and my history of having to go up and ask you folks for the panels is that, and the vests, is that they're basically the same price, $10, give or take, from any company that you go to. The panels have a 5-year expiration, recommended expiration by the manufacturers, and that's why we come see you about every 5 years for the next set of replacements.
All right.
I just have one question. Go ahead, Dan.
How do they wear out?
Sweat, quite honestly, I don't want to make it sound too graphic, but they're very hot. They're exposed to weather, wear and tear just from the use of stretching, bending. They don't. If one were to be impacted by a projectile, such as a firearm, we would have to replace that immediately. It's a manufacturer recommended 5-year period. So, but they do accumulate some wear and tear over time. So,
Commissioner Geiger?
What are the differences between the 2 models that we have here? We have 2 that appear to be Deputy O'Grady and Deputy Staines.
So that's a great question, Commissioner Geiger. Actually, they're both going to be what they call threat level 2. It's a federal level, that standard that they actually maintain and that they expect certified or correction staff to have. So the only difference is that the carriers that we're buying new, we're changing the way that we're buying carriers. We had the old vests that use the Velcro straps. These actually zip, so they're easier for the deputies to take on and off. And quite honestly, it's a little easier on their backs and hips to have this variety. They're a little bit stronger through certain other areas. So it's a general upgrade over time. And so the carriers themselves have kind of gotten a little bit more fine-tuned.
Sleeker. And
yes, exactly.
That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Connor?
So when the 10 carriers that you're going to replace those panels on, is there any amount of times you can replace panels? Is it a one time and the next time you got to get a new vest, or?
It really depends.
There aren't any regulations.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the panels have to be replaced every 5 years. The carriers have to be replaced usually when the panels are replaced, if they're gotten to that point of wear and tear.
Okay.
So otherwise they're kept in a cool, dry storage so that they are only taken out when they're going to be used. I mean, most of our corrections deputies are inside and don't have to wear them while they're in the facility necessarily. It's only when they're going to have to go on those transports.
So, and there isn't really any criteria of how often you have to replace the carrier?
No, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
I got one question. Are the old ones worth anything?
Well, they could be if someone wanted to purchase a new carrier. The old panels are expired, so I don't know if there was anybody willing to wear one to take a risk with it, but they could potentially be used for maybe some experimental use, but we can't resell them because they're expired. So,
Any other questions? There being no further discussion, the question before the committee is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval to purchase replacement vests and panels for a total cost of $6,935 with funds to be paid from the Diverted Felons Fund. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The item is approved.
thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, sir. Here to present our next item is Tammy Price. The chair would entertain a motion to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of the change notice number 1 of the Office of Community Corrections grant number CPS 2019-1-3 and to authorize the chairperson to execute, sign the change notice number 1.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Parker, supported by Jackson. Tammy, the floor is yours.
Good morning. I'm feeling a little under the weather, so I apologize. This is really an easy one. The state actually, for once, made it easier to spend their money. For the DDJR money, which is the drunk driver or drugged driver jail reduction fund that they provide to us, generally you have to look at the sentencing guidelines, and there was quite a criteria that you had to meet to be able to use that funding. They have removed that criteria and indicated that as long as they have been charged and convicted of drunk or drugged driving and they meet medium or high risk on the compass or a probable or likely that they're going to be using substances on the same compass, which is a risk and needs assessment, then we can use the DDJR money to provide drug testing and other services for them. So it opened up some funding that was already provided to us. It opened that funding up to some additional offenders. Additionally, it clarified that we have to do some background checks and that we don't need the state's permission to allow somebody to work with offenders if they have a past criminal history. It's really only if they have a current criminal history that we have to contact MDOC and get their permission, which really doesn't apply to us anyway. We don't have any offenders working directly with our clients unless they're providing peer support services.
Anybody have any questions for Tammy today?
Feel better.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So they're requiring the background checks? Were you doing those before?
Yes.
I figured you
They were requiring them before. They just kind of clarified what they're looking for and gave some timelines on how quickly we have to talk with MDOC if we find something.
I figured you were doing it, but I just wanted to ask.
Yes.
Any other questions for Tammy? Seeing none. The question before the Board of Commissioners is before the committee is to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval of the change notice number 1 of the Office of Community Corrections grant number CPS 2019-1-3 and to authorize the chairperson to execute sign change notice number 1. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The item is approved.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda would be at this time, the chair would entertain a motion to interview applicants and, if desired, to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval to appoint Jim Brown to serve in a general public position and to appoint Stuart Cowan to serve in a position representing the solid waste industry on the Solid Waste Oversight Committee for the remainder of the 3 years that begin on 11/1/17 and expire on 10/31/20.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Gibson, support by Smelker. And we have Mr. Brown for an interview. Good morning, sir.
Yes, sir.
Can you explain how you're going to find free time to serve on yet another committee?
I'm sorry, you what now?
Can you tell me how you're going to find extra time to serve on another committee?
Actually, I sat on this committee almost 20 years ago when I first was supervisor. Harry Adroni was on. Good people. And served on it for the first 4 years in my term of supervisor. And I got off because I got tired of nothing happening. Good people, but nothing happening. And fast forward to today, and hopefully things have changed. They do. You do have a good board. They do an excellent job on some things. We need to do a lot more. And so I was talked into applying again, which I did voluntarily. And but I will alert you right now, right up front, that if you do put me on this board, be prepared to get something done, because if it's not, I will be long gone.
10,000 feet away, right?
At 10,000 feet.
All right, where do we start? Commissioner Gibson,
No questions. Thanks for applying.
Commissioner Smelker?
Jim and I don't always agree, but I can say that I think we put him on that board, you're not going to find anybody that's any more passionate about it.
Commissioner
I
Geiger?
think he would make a good one.
I'll echo what John says. Not only is we won't find a better person in Berry County, but also in Michigan. You have been awarded for your leadership and the Hastings Township Board's leadership in coming up with a very, very creative way to promote recycling and have streams of a very clean waste stream. So that effort has really put your township hall on the map, and you have the mind that can really benefit the solid waste board. So I'd be happy to serve with you, Jim.
Commissioner Parker?
Must be a real echo in here, because I'm going to echo what these guys have said. I really feel that Jim is well suited for this, and I think he's looking in the future in a way that I think is a good way to look. It just there's going to be things changing in this world that we really need to be ahead of the game on it, and I think it showed through the meeting that we had last Friday when John and I were there, or Thursday, John and I were there, that people are thinking out of the box, and Jim's thinking out of 2 or 3 boxes ahead. So I think he'd be great for continuing on this.
No questions. I agree with all the other comments, so.
Vivian?
Yes, I'm going to echo the same thing. We've had conversations about recycling even before I was a commissioner. So, and Jim is a on the grounds, get it done guy. I applaud you for all that you've done for the recycling issue. Thank you very much.
I do have one comment, though. First of all, I do appreciate the positive comments on me, but
it wasn't easy. I had to dig deep.
I tell you, I give you guys a lot of credit. I really do. But it's not me. It's when you look at what we did for the township. When I look at the white paper that I had to do which I did for the Michigan Recycling Coalition for the grant or for the award, there was over 30 different entities that were a part of that. There isn't one person sitting in this room can do it by themselves. period, paragraph, end of story, including me. But I think that getting together and doing it together, we can do it together, and you're going to see that little sidebar more than a few times. We can do it, but we've got to do it, and we got to stop talking about different things. And once we agree on what we're going to do, then we do it. I think Margaret Thatcher said a consensus is not the decision to do it. It's just that we agree to do it. Then we got to get off our dead butts and then do it. That's the only thing I hate about government, and I'm in it, and there's a reason for it, that we talk about a lot of things, there's a lot of good things we can do, but then for some reason it never gets done. So I'm going to warn you that if we as a group decide that we want to do something, we're going to do it. So be prepared.
Thank
Get
you,
it
sir.
done.
I have no questions for you. Thank you for applying.
Pardon?
Thank you for applying.
Oh, okay. Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can leave now.
Thank you.
Mr. Cowan,
He called me ugly one time, so.
I want you to know that I chastised him for that, so. Good morning, sir. Mr. Brown is a frequent flyer in our committee.
Yeah, we know.
So.
He's a frequent flyer of mine, too.
Take a few minutes and introduce yourself.
Stuart Brent Cowan. I go by Brent. Pretty much my whole life. I work for Lewis Panos Ornamental Company. I have since 1997. I came to Hastings in 2008 to take over the Hastings division. Because somebody asked me a question in 2006 what I wanted to do with the company, and I said I had my own division, and careful what you wish for. Things can happen. Jeff Mansfield approached me about this committee as he's stepping off it, and thought, being in the recycling business, that'd be a good place for me to lend some expertise. And yeah, Jim Brown and I, with his situation out there at the township, some of the scrap comes into us, and they get a check from Padnos. So we work those, relationships we can.
Commissioner Parker.
No, I have no questions. It sounds like you're well qualified for knowing what's going on there. Appreciate
And if I
that.
don't know, Padnos is a 100-plus-year-old company.
Yeah.
And fourth generation has been at the helm for 3 years now. And we do paper, plastic, metals, electronics. So there's a wealth of knowledge available to help
Appreciate
come up
you.
with ideas.
Appreciate you applying. That's the kind of people we need in this.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yeah, thank you, Brent. Any changes? I know when we had talked about recycling and talked about some of the processes, that the prices on materials had plummeted quite a bit over time in plastics and things like that. Has there been any recovery in those prices? Is there any more value to recycling and what we're doing in there?
Plastics is definitely tied to the crude oil market. It's a base for a lot of plastics, comes out of oil. So when plastics had really good recovery values and it made sense because it's very labor intensive, crude was $100 a barrel and we were paying $3.50 to $4 a gallon for gasoline. We're not paying those kind of prices. Crude is very low. So to recover plastics, depending on the grade, is more logical than others. Jeff Padnos, I remember him being asked all the time about glass, recycled glass. And to recycle glass is very expensive. Sand is very cheap. There's lots of sand. And that's where glass is from. So with all things recycling, there is the markets that have to be considered of what makes sense. And that's what Jim Brown and I have talked about at length over the years with this project too. It's the same. How does that stuff come together? And where does it work. And even Kent County with their big MRF, they take everything in. They also have the ability to send a certain percentage of that over that's not easy to recycle or very recyclable to their incinerator, which then is reuse because they burn it to make energy. So there's lots of different avenues. Some stuff goes right back into being what it was. Some stuff goes back to make other energy.
Well, we appreciate your application, and hopefully that expertise can lend some just to the big picture of what we're trying to do here at Berry County. So thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Connor?
Thank you. Thank you so much for applying. We've been trying to fill the solid waste. I'm going to have to back up and look at what it's called.
Committee?
Yes.
Oversight Committee?
No, the
Solid
solid
waste
waste
industry.
industry representative. There we go. And so I thank you for applying. I know everybody's busy, but thank you. I can't say enough. So,
Commissioner Gibson?
Have you attended any of their meetings?
I have not. It's all new.
I think you'll get a chance to. Thanks for applying.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smelker?
No questions. Thank you for applying.
Commissioner Geiger?
Thank you, Brent, for applying. I've known Brent for quite a while, and remember we met back when you were involved in Leadership Berry County. And
2010?
Yeah, and through the chamber and events, you have been a real active community leader, and I think you would bring a great wealth of expertise to our committee.
Thank you.
And I don't have any questions for you because they do an awesome job of asking what I'm thinking. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So,
We're going to appoint you.
yeah, pretty
So-
much.
Well, thank you very much for that.
Thanks. So the question before the board, since there's no further discussion, was to interview applicants, and we did. And then to recommend to the Board of Commissioners approval to appoint Jim Brown to serve in a general public position and to appoint Stuart Cowan to serve in a position representing the solid waste industry on the Solid Waste Oversight Committee for the remainder of 3-year terms that begin on 11/1/17 and expire on 10/31/20. All those in favor, excuse me, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The item is approved. Can we take 5 minutes to take a little break?
Sure.
All right, we will